What's up, y'all? Welcome back. I am back. Dean Thomas here. Straight from Liverpool. I'm in Utica now for UFC in Utica. I'm going to talk to you about that in a second, but let's talk about Liverpool. Before I get into my whole thing about Liverpool, I want to tell y'all my most memorable experience that happened to me in Liverpool, England. So, I'm walking back from the store just to pick up a few things, and I look into, as I'm walking on the street, there's a crevice in the building, and in that crevice is a homeless man, and this homeless man is laid down a blanket. He's laying on the blanket. He's got all his food laid out. He's got a canister with some change in it, and he's laid down on this blanket, and he's laying there, and he's pillow talking on a cell phone. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I have to stop and look at this homeless man pillow talking on a cell phone. And he looks at me and he says, let me get this right. And he looks at me and he says, could you spare some change? And I said, my brother, you doing better than me. I'm gonna give you every shilling in my pocket. God bless you, brother. Even the homeless people in Liverpool were sophisticated. I loved it. I loved it. So let me get back to Liverpool, the fight night. Listen, don't be talking about my accent, all right? I didn't even warm up. I didn't even prepare for that. I just was throwing it out there, all right? So you British people, whoever, don't be dogging my accent. Anyway, so let me get back to the real task at hand, and that's talk about the fights in Liverpool. What a tremendous night of fights in Liverpool. The crowd and the audience and the spectators in Liverpool were just tremendous, and I thought it was a great night of fights. But what I do want to talk about really, the main event everybody's talking about, Darren Till and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and how that decision went. A fight is a fight. I'm not really going to get into that too much. I will say this though, is that I did believe that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson won that fight. Just my opinion. That's the way I see it. I liked what he was doing. I liked this movement. I thought he landed the cleaner shots. I thought he controlled it. Everybody says that, Darren Till controlled because he was moving forward. I thought Stephen Thompson controlled because he was steering the direction of the fight. And he was landing the shots as he was doing it. So that's just my opinion. However, that's not really what I want to talk about with that fight. I think this is a learning moment for all of us. And this is something that's very important for fighters and fans and everybody in the MMA community, because we have worked too hard to get this far in MMA to allow this to happen. And that's judging. Judging criteria and the expectations of what are expected from these fighters is so ambiguous and ridiculous that I don't even know what to say about it. We have to understand this. We all have different ideas of what we're looking at in a fight. And when the fighters don't exactly know what's going on and what the rounds are being scored, it's very difficult to continue to game plan for that fight. So I'm all for open scoring judging. I think the judges need to be held accountable. I think it's fair, only fair to the fighters that they know where they're at. I've been in fights, I've been with fighters that's been in fights that we thought we were winning the rounds. And we might have been losing the rounds, but in our eyes we're winning the rounds because we're executing the way we want to. But they're close rounds because this is a high level sport and athletes are going to be very competitive, and sometimes they're close, but we may think we're winning. And we're continuing doing what we're doing, thinking that we're winning, and then only to be at the end discover that what we were doing wasn't right. So we never were able to give them the fair opportunity to make an adjustment, to change the strategy, because we didn't know we were losing. And it happens all the time. Fighters need to know where they stand in the fight. You got 3 rounds to fight. If you're losing 2 rounds, you need to know that so that you know that you have to come back, because in a competitive fight, sometimes you might think you're winning and you're going to continue to do what you do, thinking that you're winning. But in the judges' eyes, some of the judges' eyes, you might not be winning. Now understand this too. Judges don't know everything. Some of these judges come from boxing backgrounds. Some of them might come from a jiu-jitsu background. They don't know how to score a leg kick versus a jab. They don't know how close some of the fighters are getting in these guillotine positions or arm lock situation. They may think it's close and it may not be close, or vice versa. So they may be giving a guy some extra points based on what they see, and it may not be nothing at all. So one, I think judging needs to be evolved in the future. I think it needs to be, these judges need to be educated further. It's almost like they have to do it. Now, I'm not going to say that they have to get out there and do it, but they need to be educated. They need to know what's going on. They need to know what a choke feels like. They need to know the difference in the damage that leg kicks can do compared to body kicks, compared to jabs, compared to whatever else. Because oftentimes what we see is just, it's almost like a high schoolyard judging criteria. Who do you think won? Well, he looks worse than him, so I'm going to say he won. Or he threw more punches than he did, so I'm going to say he won. But that's unfair at this level of sport. You know, these guys deserve better than that. We always talk about, fighter union and what fighters deserve. You know, fighters aren't entitled to everything. I will say that. Fighters aren't entitled to certain money. Fighters aren't entitled to sponsorships. But what fighters are entitled to is the opportunity to win in the fashion that they prepare for. It's the only thing that fighters are entitled to. In a sport where it's all about winning and losing, fighters should be given the opportunity to know when they're winning and when they're losing. And in fights that are extremely close, fighters need to know what they need to do, and they need to be able to make adjustments when it comes time for it. And it's unfair that they don't get that opportunity because it's open scoring and you're dealing with these judges that don't know the difference between an arm bar from a candy bar. You got these judges, they just scribbling, nonsense on a piece of scratch paper with a crayon, and that determines the outcome of a fight. We're talking about $1 million fights here, and you got these judges doing this. It's a travesty, and it needs to change. It definitely needs to change. One of the biggest rebuttals that I've gotten on my proposal to have open scoring has been, well, if a guy knows he's up, he's going to cruise. Yeah, he might. But don't you think if a guy is up, that he's earned that right to cruise if he so chooses to do so? However, if he's looking to get a bonus, he's a submission bonus or knockout bonus, he's going to continue to pummel his opponent. However, he's earned the right to cruise if he so chooses to do so. But what would be more compelling than watching a loser who looks up on that screen and says, I'm down 2 rounds, I'm down 4 rounds, I'm down, I need to come back. What would be more compelling than to watch that fighter come back? Because he looks up on the screen and knows it. But what we're getting more often are these situations where fighters don't know. And in their head, they think they're winning. And then they cruise anyway. Fighters will cruise anyway if they think they're winning. And that's what we're getting now is fighters. Sometimes we see both fighters do it. That's why you see these boring fights in these last rounds that are boring. It's because both of them probably think that they're winning. There's no way to tell. They think that they're winning, and they're just cruising. If they know, if they can look up on the board, the coaches tells them, hey man, listen, look up on the screen, you're down. You need to come back. We're going to see more compelling fights. I'm telling you. I know fighters like I know the back of my hand. We will see more compelling fights, but we're getting more often than not because fighters are biased. Corners are biased. Every time the opponent throws a punch in and our fighter blocks it, we think, oh, that's nothing. But the judges might see that as a hit. So we can't read the judge's mind and know what they're thinking. We need to have that open scoring so that these corners and fighters know exactly where they are so they can make adjustments in order to do what they need to do in order to win that fight. At the end of the day, I think it all comes down to this, is that fans love the excitement of not knowing. And I think that's the only reason, because I've searched my brain and the earth for the answer of why they do this close scoring. And one is probably just because of tradition, and it's been so easy to do. It's just tradition. And then I'm thinking that maybe for the fans, that excitement at the end of it, of not knowing who won, and then the scorecards are being read, and then, that you get that excitement there. That has to be the only reason. But listen, this isn't American Idol. This isn't a beauty pageant. This is a sport. What other sport do the athletes not know what the score is and can make adjustments and strategies in order to win that game. In football, could you imagine if it was like, if they just, well, this team looked like they won because they had more yards. They looked like they had more yards, so they won. He threw more passes, and this guy caught it, so we're going to give it to the Patriots. Or in basketball, well, LeBron James shot more. He may have missed more, but he shot more, so, we're going to give it to the Cleveland Cavaliers just because they look like they did more. It's unfair. It is unfair. It's unfair to the fighters. It's unfair to people who train. It's unfair to the coaches. Open scoring, y'all. I'm all for it. Now, along the same lines, as far as like the evolution of the sport and things that we need to improve on, we need to get rid of some things, I believe. I think we need to get rid of one, the 10-point must system. I mean, it just really doesn't. I mean, when you're dealing with boxing and all they're doing is throwing punches, essentially there's like 6 punches and some variations to those punches. But when you're talking about MMA, we're talking about punches, kicks, knees, elbows, takedowns, submissions, and a wide variety of submissions that I'm sure that some of these judges never even heard of or could spell or never even seen. You can't base that on a 10-point must system. It's just too difficult. I mean, when you think about it, it's adopted from boxing, but I mean, there are just so many other things involved. I mean, why not use a wrestling scoring system, or a jiu-jitsu scoring system, or a judo scoring system? Because we can't, but we've associated the combat sport with boxing, so we use that judging system, which is totally unfair. So we need to get rid of the 10-point must system, or fix it so that it's a little bit more fair and less biased towards certain arts. Another thing we need to get rid of is the win bonus. Now, I know that may sound crazy, but I don't believe that the win bonus totally motivates a fighter in that fight. I don't believe it does. I think it motivates him to train and it motivates him, in the dressing room, but during the fight, I don't think that win bonus does anything to motivate him. I believe that instead of saying, let's say we pay a fighter 10 grand to show, 10 grand to win, why not just make that fight, 15 grand flat? You get a flat fee, and then you get a bonus to finish the fight. You get a bonus to make the guy quit. That should be the bonus. It shouldn't be win and lose, because now we're dealing with situations where it's a conflict of interest to win if it's 1, boring, or 2, you don't know that you're winning because of the scoring system, so it's a conflict of interest. Get rid of the win bonus, have a flat fee, then pay a bonus to finish the fight. That's when we're going to get the excitement. So now if we have an open scoring system, one fighter is up 2 rounds and if he knows he can get a bonus to finish, he may go for it. If not, what's the incentive of him risking a loss if he knows he's going to make double his money to win because of the win bonus? Let's get rid of the win bonus, 1 flat fee. And you know my stance on the judges. We need to educate them, or just have more of them per fight. I mean, 3 judges that probably don't know much about MMA, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's archaic, and we need to get rid of that too. We are losing a legend in the game, Michael Bisping. I've met Michael quite a few times, long time ago when he was just coming up, saw him come up through the ranks, and he is a pioneer for English mixed martial arts. I mean, he wasn't the first. I mean, there was guys before him like Ian Freeman and some other guys, but Michael Bisping is the one who really put them on the map, and he was the original, brash talking Englishman who came over here and did his thing, man. And not only did he do his thing inside the octagon, he did his thing outside the octagon with Fox and just making a good name for himself. So I'm proud to have watched his career from the beginning and to watch it develop, and then to watch him go out on his own terms. Really, he was a champion inside and outside of the octagon. So props to Michael Bisping on an illustrious career, and nothing but good luck and fortune to you in the future. Okay, that's enough ranting for one day. Let's talk about something more important. Utica. I'm in Utica, UFC Fight Night. The main event is fabulous, and wow, when you talk about Jimmy Rivera and Marlon Moraes, these are 2 of the top bantamweights in the world with explosive knockout power and just tremendous ability. A lot of experience from both guys with tremendous heart and the ability to win fights. These are 2 of the top guys, and these 2 guys could be fighting for a championship, one day. And so this is kind of a pick'em fight for me. I don't really even know who to pick in this fight. This is such a tremendous matchup. this is one of those matchups where you think like these guys really have to fight, best of 7 to determine who's the better fighter. Because, if you're trying to put money on this fight, it's just very difficult because, they're good and at everything and they have knockout power. So I wish I could help you on who I'm favoring on this. I can't really give you a clear answer on that, but I'll just say that this is one of the fights where the better guy may not win because of that. They're only going to fight this one time, but it's going to be a great fight. I do think it's going to be a good fight. I mean, these guys have been barking at each other for the longest time, and they both want this fight. A lot of pride on the line here with these guys, and I think that both of them will show up. I mean, especially this is kind of local. It's on the East Coast for these guys, so I think they will show up despite having the pressure of being on the East Coast and having so much pride involved from all the garbage talk that they had going into this fight. But I think they will show up, and I think they will deliver as far as in terms of excitement. The other thing I'm looking forward to with this fight is a young man by the name of Gregor Gillespie, who was a phenomenal wrestler in college, and now he's fighting in the UFC. He's got an undefeated record, and there's a lot of talk about this kid going into this fight. And I've watched him fight before, and he is extremely slick and extremely skilled. And I'm looking forward to watching him compete. So there we have it, UFC in Utica. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for joining me. Look, I don't want to hear no nonsense about my British accent. I can do a better one. I just need to warm up. You know what I'm saying? I was cold. It was cold outside. It was cold. So anyway, listen, I'm going to see y'all next week. I catch up with y'all. I'm Dean Thomas, and I'm out.